When is a system dead? When it stops getting games? When it stops being made? When people stop talking about it? Sega of America will tell you it's 1991 for the Master System, if they remember it existed at all. It's as late as 1998 for licensed games in other territories, although as of 2026 the machine is still being made officially by Tectoy in Brazil. But stop getting games? Like a lot of systems, that never happened. Here's Frontier Force from Bad Computer, and remember that name. This was released last year, and it's not the only box game that can say that. A big reason for that is the annual SMS pad coding competition that seems to get more popular and more difficult to make a video on every year. Several of these have ended up spawning full boxed releases, such as the game now in the background, 2024's Stygian Quest by Nashakta. While all these should work fine in an emulator, on your legally dodgy handheld, or even your fancy Mr. Multi-system, as always this channel is pushing the boat out, and all footage you're about to see was captured on the official History's Greatest Console, my own daily driver Master System. Well, apart from one section, and there's a very good reason for that. There are 22 new things. Some of them are demos, some of them are games. One is only technically a Master System game. If you're short on time, the last chapter has the 3 things I think you should play right now. But if you can, stay with us, because there's a lot we're seeing here for a console now in its 40th year in the UK, starting with the demos. Minor disclaimer, these are being shown off in their competition entry deadline day form for the most part. Some bugs may have been fixed and games improved since then. Do you remember I mentioned Bad Computer less than a minute ago? I really hope so. Here's his first appearance. It's a tech demo of sorts that may indicate the direction of their next game, in which it will feature as an Easter egg. It looks good, would make for a really good intro to a ship game, and allows you to control the ship as well as see the schematics. It's not what you're going to absolutely need to download of Bad Computers though, stay tuned. El Viento Opening is a recreation on the Sega 8 of the Sega 16 game El Viento from Wolf Team, and it looks bloody great. So much so you look forward to playing it. But unfortunately, author Lenuka isn't sure a proper conversion is possible. They were responsible for the excellent Dr. Mario remake My Nurse a couple of years back, so I believe them. It's a shame though, because this is a top level implementation of the intro, which wasn't a gimme in the downgrade from the Mega Drive. If you're wondering what the game is on the Sega 16, I'll follow the intro with a clip from it. Letter Home is Mark Tree's first foray into coding, and art, and sound, and controlling his 3-year-old when they're near a mic. It's bare bones, but once again accessible. A big list of help and middleware, including, once again, DevKit SMS, has let him get this lovely little hello world up and running and into this competition. Equally true of RT's well-named last-minute demo that was mostly slapped together from an abandoned 2025 project in 2 hours. This is on a different level though. RT55J, to use their formal title, is more experienced, and this is written in assembler, but is still a simple and effectively thrown together demo lasting about 3 minutes. Credit to RT, they didn't know if it ran on hardware because they couldn't check. As you can see, they nailed it. Multicolour Mars is a straight demo, in the traditional demonstration sense. Joe's playing with the hardware to the extent this is a rare Master System program that will not work on a Mega Drive with the converter, as it uses a graphics mode from the SG-1000 the machine known as the Genesis on Wikipedia can't replicate. But it won't work on an SG-1000 either, because it's using an effect the earlier system can't replicate. In any case, it's pretty to look at, even if you don't know the pattern animation, parallax scrolling and rapid switching of name tables that make it work. Well worth getting onto your real SMS just to put 2 fingers up at those smug Mega Drive owners with their blast processing and their at least 3 names for the same machine. One last one that's technically a game, but I'll lump it in with the demos. Operation Amazon, but in what I believe to be Portuguese, is a simple demo of what could become a side-scrolling shooter featuring some impressive scrolling. Hopefully it'll become something later. It's not even just the Master System. Before we get onto those games, we should acknowledge the 2 of these entries that run just fine on an SMS, but are written for its predecessor, the aforementioned SG-1000. One non-game. Arabet speech synthesizer from Digital Fluff uses phonemes to make up the sentences it will then speak. I obviously use it to say only the most important things, but it has a couple of useful demo modes, one that insults you, and this one that tries to explain what the point of itself is, before it gets distracted. The SG-1000 game is older than the console. Aklebeth is a 1979 RPG, well before the days of Dungeon Master's Real-Time Death or Ultima Underworld's Smooth 3D. Although that's relevant because Aklebeth was the first commercial foray into games by one Richard Lord British Garriott. While Richard is neither a lord nor British, he would shortly after go on to create the Ultima games, of which the 4th is the best because it's the only one that got a Master System release. Some consider this Ultima Zero, including at times Origin themselves, and while I've no idea if that's sensible at all, if so I guess that makes this the 2nd best Ultima by default? In any case, the port is by Dark, who last year gave us the very interesting Yowai, also an SG-1000 game. This is way too much to consider in an off-topic segment of an absurdly busy video, but as someone who never played the original, this seems very solid. Once I figured out I needed to buy enough food, I quickly found and started to explore Dungeon 1. For me, it has the problem I usually have. I get very lost very quickly, but this conversion to a machine barely newer than the game really feels like it could have been released at the time rather than just on the Apple II and MS-DOS. I tried that MS-DOS version briefly and there's little important difference. You could too since it's free on GOG, but hey, why not try this one first? Luckily for me, the first SMS game alphabetically is the one I have to start with anyway. I'll be choosing a top 3 at the end of this, and Atoms probably should be in there, but it's not, because I need to declare an interest here. I flatter myself to consider the author Goldfish a friend, and that name is likely to be familiar to several watching this because he's been on the channel several times. If you watch his equally magazine-based show Cover Disc Face Off, you might have seen this channel's logo in the background. I've even fingered his slot. The one on his A500 Plus, you bastards. I also played a version of this game several weeks ago, so while I do genuinely think Atoms, which originated as a PD game on the Amiga, is well worth your time, and will be giving it a very healthy vote myself on the site, I'm going to quietly disqualify it from my top 3. Atoms is a puzzle game against up to 5 other humans or AI, selected from a menu that certainly screams Amiga. The basic idea is to quietly build up your domain by placing the molecules. This bit is easy. You're going to end up with an even number of blobs on the board. Where that changes is, once an atom gets too many molecules, it'll overload and explode, changing all the ones around it to your colour and attaching an extra molecule to them, which might mean they have too many molecules, and explode. By the end of the game, you'll end up with large chain reactions that can change the course of the entire thing and shuffle the leaderboard to almost too great a degree, but it does mean it's never over until it's game over. Probably better for long-term play is the challenge mode, where the goal is to explode a certain number of each colour in time, and this has a lot more depth than you might think. Explosions will give you extra time, but you still need to keep a lid on them. If, for instance, you need red and blue to complete the level, then you really don't want your red chain explosion to get rid of all the blues, or you'll be starting from near scratch with increasingly little time left. This is minor at first, but by level 7, when you're playing with a maximum of 20 seconds left, taking the turns of all the colours to get back to blue will be a killer. It's a near complete game, and very much looking like something that would have got a reasonable score as a boxed product in the late 80s. No likely official release for this one, not least because of the IP issues, but you should get hold of the ROM off the site. Stat. Egle in Parallel Worlds is not so much a game as a demo for a platformer engine, and the game Guy has implemented with it wears its influences on its sleeve. The intro tells the story of a plumber, Egle Kid, usually looked over in favour of his more famous brother Alex the. A plumber in a platform game, eh? I'm sure that's been done before. I wonder if I'll be reminded where later in this video. Taken as an admittedly incomplete game, Egle is still pretty compelling. From scratch in C using the popular dev kit by Zvirks, they've created something that feels like an 80s SMS platformer, similar but not identical to Miracle World, but to my fingers also borrowing some of the better parts of the physics from the divisive but popular Psycho Fox. The game uses assets from a lot of these games. Most SMS owners will spot some of the borrowed Alex Kidd furniture in the first level, and the music is from YouTube remixer DB2 for all but the intro, which is an unused track from Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. It's very decent and I'd like to play the whole game, although someone will have to tell me how to get past the bit in World 2 where I can't see any way to make this platform alive, and restart points are something that currently happens to other engines. There's a game here though, and if Guy wants to make it more available to others, there's the basis of an even better method to enter the accompanying hack contest than Alex Kidd and the KidEd utility currently provide. GULF Tesla Frog is one of my favourite genres, the semi-platform puzzler. The premise is really simple. You need to switch on all the floors and then find your way to the newly opened exit. It's not dissimilar in that vein to games like Pop-Up or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure on Game Boy, both of which I'm very fond of. In order to turn on those floors, you need electrical charge, which can be obtained from the marked charger tiles. GULF, though, only has a capacity of 10, so it's a rare level that can be completed without multiple visits to them, and charging is not instant, which leaves you vulnerable to the various enemies that roam the levels. You have no defense against them, and a single contact will restart the level, so there's an element of strategy and sometimes taking a partial charge for your own safety. GULF also has no means of jumping, so the game can be controlled entirely with the D-pad for the most part. Access to higher parts of the levels is available, but only via lifts, the traversal of which cannot be cancelled or reversed, making for more than one incident of me sailing helplessly into one of the enemies. The enemies are also not stupid. Each can only access squares along their set path, but they do have a measure of awareness of where you are, and most are able to reverse direction or take an alternative path in order to intercept you. I spent quite a lot of my time trying to lure them to one side of the screen, then making a panicked rush to the last few squares or the exit. I bloody love it. Crucial for that is it's not a bastard. It set out its terms, it set out its dangers, and most games, including a lot of commercial titles, would now be tempted to throw in a time limit or a limited number of lives. GULF does neither, making it a perfect little chill puzzle game that's absolutely not without challenge, but that challenge is in the puzzles, not in some arbitrary limit, and it respects your time by never making you retread 1,000 levels to get back to where you were. Or won't if you're running it on a machine that can save state anyway, because the current version does not have any method of doing so. It's only 25 levels, but it's the one thing this game is missing. Even so, it'd be perfect for a train trip, and that's lucky because this is the one game which alongside this version also has one for the Game Gear. Intergalactic Prophylactic is described as an alpha demo, but if anything that undersells it. InPro, as undeveloper graciously suggests you actually call it, is obviously a Defender clone, a game where you kill the ships to stop them abducting the humans. On first look, this is already perfect as an arcade conversion, and you wonder why they're even describing it as early. It moves like lightning, it has the arcade's mini-map, which is no small feat on a Master System, and said map is gigantic. Your ship responds well, moves fast, and undevelopers double-tap the reverse direction to turn solution mimics the arcade machine's implementation and quickly becomes second nature. The problem with it is the one the dev freely admits to in a game they threw together in 4 weeks to distract them from the project they should have been creating for this competition. The need to keep that frame rate and speed up while keeping track of this many things over this wide an area means the mini-map update rate is slow. This is not a major issue, I never once looked at it and felt the data was wrong. More seriously though, this also applies to the collision detection, and it doesn't take long watching my footage to find my bullets, or even my me, going through enemies without harm. I don't want to oversell this problem, the thing is still fun, but if it were to get a commercial release this would need to be looked at, which would not be a small job. I like it though. Getting this running in a month to this standard as a single developer shows how accessible this stuff can now be, relatively speaking. Very enjoyable. Speaking of accessible, one of the bigger advances in this stuff recently is CV BASIC from frequent retro game dev Oscar Toledo Gutierrez. As the name might imply, it was initially for the ColecoVision, but was upgraded to support Master System dev. Even I've had a play with it. Maybe one of these days I'll have to cover my own thing. In the meantime though, Lucas has put this together in CV BASIC to show us. It's not to the level of Oscar's own Mecha 8 of course, that wasn't written in BASIC. But Jetpack, unrelated to the famous Ultimate release, is a very decent little arcade game. You might remember Space Race, especially if you visited our friends at the Arcade Archive in Stroud, where you can play it. You might even have played Yawning Angel's implementation of the same thing in Amos, and Amiga BASIC. Basically, the goal here is, get to the top of the screen without taking a planet to the face. If you do so, you get 5 points and are replaced at the bottom. Repeat until 3 planets have attempted to give you on-the-fly rhinoplasty. Unlike Space Race itself, you can move left and right as well, which helps. Like the previous game though, there's a reasonably big but solvable problem with this one. Planets come across low down, and whether you clear the top or get hit, you respawn fairly instantly at the bottom, where you immediately get hit by a planet. And if it was your first life, sometimes respawn again immediately and lose the last one. This is especially true if you're coming off a win because you're probably still pressing up. A change to protect against this in some fashion, both in terms of controls and planet positioning, would make a huge difference. And that's excellent because at the time of writing, Luck's working on just that. Still though, this is genuinely fun and it's throwing not a small amount of stuff across the screen. This is a game written in BASIC and not even an official BASIC, one that an admittedly talented amateur wrote initially for a different machine. If you're a coder at all, there's very little excuse for not giving it a try, and while this is a fun little game to play in 5 minutes or to hand to your 6-year-old, the demonstration it represents might be more important to this competition than the game itself. Last year, RayTube produced 2 games which I thought didn't quite stand on their own but were the basis of what could be an excellent compilation puzzle cartridge. I doubt they even watched the video, much less took that to heart, but this year they've done much the same. The first of them is this, Pet Factory, the 256 DNA test tube game. The game's description is probably best categorised as catastrophically wanky, but the premise is that we will be creating unholy nightmare creatures via the medium of combining DNA. The game pitches itself as an educational tool, and while I don't quite know enough about biology to debate that, in essence what we have here is similar to last year's attention to detail. The job here is to match a 5-cell pattern in the 256 cell image 8 times within the time limit. This is easier said than done of course. The trick is to try and look for part patterns, but whether by design or random you're going to see a lot of very similar ones across the entire board. And this is playing on a very nice RGB SCART setup. Do not attempt this via RF because half of them are going to look the same. Still though, this is a nice challenging puzzle game. Everything about it works even though Ray themselves describes it as unfinished. It certainly is to a degree. There's no in-game music of any kind for instance, and it could probably use SFX cues for when your time is running out. That's all fluff though, this is complete in terms of gameplay. One demonstration of that is there's also a 64 cell mode, which is, if anything, too easy, reducing the pool as such that a decent proportion of the time any 2 or 3 cell pattern will be unique. The only payment for this reduced difficulty is that one of the 4 target pets is not available. That said, which again, similar to attention to detail, this absolutely makes a good companion to their other 2, and stick around, we've got another to come before we're finished here. Proof of Bubbles, or if you've played games ever, Bust a Move, or Puzzle Bubble, or Super Puzzle Fighter. A game by any other name is still one where you have to fire the bubbles to make 3 in a row which then disappear, possibly taking other bubbles with it. And this is another one of it. The reason seasoned SMS dev Joppyfer says they attempted this is because the official Game Gear port cheated and used 8x8 pixel balls instead of the full-fat 16 pixel ones, and they wanted to see if they could get full size running on the Master System. They absolutely can, but this is deliberately still a proof of concept. The level designs are swiped from Bust a Move 2 Arcade Edition, some of the sprites are ripped from the SMS dev's best friend Alex Kidd. There's no in-game music yet either. More crucially though, there's little actual jeopardy. If you don't know Bust a Move, then your biggest problem is that the roof gradually falls towards you if you take too long, like I clearly am here. This version doesn't yet do that, so the only way to lose is to pile so many balls up it looks like a night with your mum. I'm not opposed to that though, this is Bust a Move Chill Out Edition. Some tedious Steam Cell YouTuber would probably call it cozy. Either way, there's a full game not much dev work away, but right now this is a great way to spend 30 minutes working through the 10 levels available. I do not understand the Chinese board game Go. No one does. If you think you do, you're wrong. To borrow from a legend, if anyone ever did figure it out, it would instantly disappear to be replaced with a game even more confusing. Some say this has already happened. Former competition winner Rafnet though has a solution. This is Capture Go. It's like Babies Go for babies, and I love it already. Whereas Go, very roughly, is won on territory, Capture Go is won by capturing pieces, as the excellent little animated intro shows. Basically, if you wall in a stone you win it, and it's removed from the board. You cannot capture your own. So it's a reversey and/or Othello-like experience. Or if you're a true video game connoisseur, the 7-Up tie-in game Spot on the Game Boy. It's still hard. At first. You only need to capture 2 pieces on the lowest level and the CPU appears to all but immediately win. But then I played a few more games and I can pretty much beat it every time by going first. Raf admits the CPU is currently stupid, but hopes it's good enough for a few games. He's 100% right. Strategy on this game, generally, is going to hinge around a stalemate eventually broken by the fact that a group of your stones counts as one stone and can all be captured at once. This is a great little mini-game, something there really needs to be a phone or tablet version of, especially with a 2-player mode. Sometimes the simplest ideas are the best, and creating the Chinese board game equivalent of 2020 cricket is a masterstroke. If there's one thing we've been missing so far, it's some good old arcade action, and Harold, always with an eye for a good action game, is on hand to give it to us. One other thing we know them for is 2024's River Strike, a conversion of the Atari 2600 game River Raid. These things combine, for Stallic Tits was never an arcade cabinet, but it is a 2025 Atari 2600 game by Thomas Jentz. Unsurprisingly, the SMS version looks better, although misses the paddle controls of the original. The game is simply to keep the rocks from reaching the bottom of the screen. Anyone doing so means an immediate game over. To help, there are some power-ups that can fall, including resets and freezes. To hinder, some idiot gave these rocks the ability to shoot energy balls at you, which seems short-sighted. So what results is just crazy pure arcade action, like an endless Space Invaders in construction. The rocks get quick, the balls more numerous. To help you, you have a limited number of smart bombs and an interesting mechanic where you can hold down a button to move quicker, but at the expense of firing slower. This is vital even in my late game as I bomb across to intercept a rock about to end the game. Lovely stuff. Ray's back with the 3D maze, in 3D, a title that sounds more like one of my tedious Yesterzine jokes than any sort of game, but it's making some big claims. It's the first Master System game where you can move in 3D space. This feels like a lie, but on a system with only a D-pad I'm struggling to think of specific examples. They point out even Doom doesn't do this, and that's mostly true, but last time I litigated that the comments caught fire, so let's not do that again. It's also worth noting that unlike Doom, we do not move in 3D in real time, so technically Gauntlet with its multiple levels counts already. More realistically, it points out the graphics are in 3D, and that's true, limited though it is. It's also a maze in 3D, meaning there are mazes on top of mazes. There isn't though, because this isn't actually a maze game, it's a memory game. Here's the bit I hadn't showed before. It tells you the one and only solution before you start. Deviate from it even slightly and it's an immediate game over. Which is a shame to a degree, because the graphics engine is impressive and a real maze with a little more variety could be a lot of fun here. What this really is a single room with a variety of ways to exit back into the same room. All of this makes this a very thin game on its own, but yet another decent entry for a RayTube brain test compilation cart. Finally, before the top 3, here's a thing. One of the SMS's big draws was the 3D glasses, which didn't work like the purple blue you're seeing now and can enjoy if you have the right cardboard prop. It showed alternate frames and had fancy closing shutters to create perfect 3D that was essentially VR 2 decades before the home got proper VR. The problem is, it needs a CRT, a Master System with a card slot, and very specific fragile hardware, none of which is easy to capture. So what you're seeing is the party piece of Windows emulator Dega. Mad bastard they are, Reventuli has created Ziggurat 3D, a game that uses those 3D glasses very effectively, and it works much better on real hardware. I just can't show you, because without the glasses it looks like this. As a game, think 3D Pac-Man. Each level you collect all the blobs to win. The 3D bit comes in with the raised and lowered sections you can jump onto, which works effectively most of the time. The enemies will rapidly spawn, so you'll also need to lean on your very slow weapon to deal with them. This struggles, at least in Dega, as the bullets tend to blur into the background, so you're not always sure if you've even shot one. A strength of the game is the level design though, especially once you get past the first level, which is a challenge in itself. It makes great use of height and even sections of the level that are lethal to the enemies as much as you. If you have a set of crappy 3D glasses handy, it's well worth a play. If you have the ability to play on real hardware, it's downright essential, and it's lovely to see new stuff for an underrated but remarkable add-on. On to the top 3, and welcome back you cheating chapter skippers. You've arrived just in time because these 3 are all incredible for different reasons. Errors is one of the stars of the competition. Lunar Skirmish finished second last year. Their Bombjack clone and pinball game both highly placed in 2024. They won in 2022, and 2021, and 2018, and 2017, and you get the point. If you didn't, then just the intro to Fridge Fury would give you that impression. You're immediately in a world that looks like a very good commercial game. Not every SMS game from the 90s had this kind of polish, and there's even a little bit of speech. As a game, it's set entirely within a fridge. You are the killer chickpea out to restore order by killing all the other mutant vegetables. I'm not sure why you're the good guy, but let's run with it here. What we have is the kind of platform and light shooter gameplay that was the basis of many an 8-bit game. We shoot the things. We jump over or around the things. We avoid both the things and the bullets some of them, notably the bananas, have. It's super polished, but weirdly it doesn't feel like a Master System game to me. I mean this as a huge compliment, but the impression I'm mostly getting here is Spectrum game after a high-resolution remaster. But better than that sounds? It's got the difficulty of a Spectrum game, certainly for my idiot fingers on a first few goes. It's got the graphical style minus the Spectrum's failings, and it's the kind of concept Mastertronic would absolutely have snapped the arm of some poor 14-year-old off to sign. You know what this should be on? This should be on the Spectrum next. Either way, this has got boxed release all over it, and if you're an 8-bit computer person then you owe it to yourself to slum it with the console crowd and play it. Casting around for a criticism, I really only have one, and that's the forced unskippable animation of you waking up at the start of every game gets old quick. Luckily for my idiot game playing abilities, you can choose the level to start, and the second one is interesting. Not only does the game start throwing some very difficult flying enemies in your direction and what can only be described as homicidal tomatoes, but you'll eventually come across this console and play an entire minigame dedicated to keeping the fridge cool. This Match 4 game would be a perfectly reasonable competition entry on its own, and we know that because in 2022 Rico 59 did just that with Do the Same, which might have done better in that competition if it wasn't for a Green Beret remake by... oh yeah, Iris. Obviously this is another stonker. Does it win the popular vote? Well, that's your decision as much as mine, but it'd take a brave person to bet on Iris missing the podium. The next one though is the one that when finished will attract the attention. Lack of Track was responsible for last year's excellent conversion of Pac-Man, which was a big hit at the Retrofest show in Swindon. This time though, they're aiming higher. It's literally Super Mario Bros, but on the Master System. In many ways I'm surprised this didn't happen sooner. There's 8 million bootleg Sonics for the SNES for instance, usually just bad graphics hacks of the likes of Mr. Nuts. Which is insulting to both Sonic and Mr. Nuts. Lack of Track has not done that. This is a proper assembler reconstruction of the disassembled original game, but with new and quite frankly better graphics. I'm on board instantly. Playing it does not disappoint. Let's not clickbait this. On sheer muscle memory from my time on the NES, and more notably SNES version, I breeze through the first level. It's all here. There's some suggestion the inertia isn't quite right on the forum thread, but if there's a difference it's slight and one that can absolutely be tuned out once the actual game is in there. I say this because beware any channel trying to get a whole video out of this. Lack of Track clearly labels this as a proof of concept, and it is. There is only this first level to play right now. But I absolutely think it's close enough they should try and put in more levels before touching the gameplay at all. Even the only real criticism I had of it as a one-level demo in the version you're seeing here is fixed, where the direct port of the NES code caused a few seconds delay in loading a level. This is already fixed in the version you'll download today, and you should download it today. This isn't just NES Super Mario Bros, which would be impressive enough. This is better. The NES draws Mario looking like this, whereas this version is closer to the 16-bit remake. So sit down again, Ninty fans, this is our party. Again. Obviously it's not a complete game, and it'll be interesting to see how the voting goes given that, but play this. It'll take you 2 minutes. The concept is absolutely proved. The hard bit is done. This now just takes time to be a complete and comparable version of Super Mario Bros. On the Master System, and that's just worth having. Every year, some game transcends this competition and finds itself on the news sites or being reposted by journalists. You would have thought that literally Super Mario Bros. But better on a Sega console would have been so this year, but it's an immediate tribute to Bad Computer, Told You to Remember Them, and Crinea that this year that's not the case. The fawning mainstream coverage has all gone the way of this, Road Fighter, a conversion of Konami's classic coin-op. And here's the thing, it's basically perfect. The coin-op is from 1984, sure, but so is most of the hardware in this machine. It sounds just as good, it moves just as well, and it looks better. It's a vertically scrolling racing game where you avoid the drone cars, past the opponent cars and collect enough fuel that you're still standing at the end of the stage. It uses fuel rather than time as your gate. So just go slow, you think. Well, that's not going to work because the fuel replenishment cars are far apart. So just go full speed and drive through everyone, you think. Well, that's not going to work because you use a lot more fuel getting up to speed than you do to drive. And so the game is that balance. Risking going flat out with a simple system where you hold either one or both buttons down, but also knowing when to back off and read the intentions of one of your competitor cars before trying to make a pass. Or being ready for the bonus car, which is your source of fuel, but also is likely to be on screen for about half a second if you're not careful. This is, as far as I can tell, a perfect conversion. It could, no question, have been released as the official one in the late 80s and got very high scores from all magazines. You'd have bought it. You'd have been happy. If it wasn't for the 2026 date on the title screen, you could show it to someone now and they would not question it. Because of potential copyright problems with Konami, Bad Computer isn't going to be selling this one, so you should head to SMS Power and get it right now. And then go buy Frontier Force for $5 from badcomputerzero.itch.io, because they have a habit of pulling off the remarkable. Will this win? Probably. Although if that Mario had more levels, or I thought people would vote for a game on holiday from a ZX Spectrum, it'd be a lot closer. But if you are any sort of video games player, you should at minimum be playing those last three. And there will be few better afternoons spent than going through all these entries. But am I right? Is it these three that stand out? Do you know Road Fighter like the back of your hand and see a problem? Are you a NES fan that spotted a pixel out of place in World 1-1? Or are there hidden depths to Jetpack I'm not seeing? Well, there's an entire comment section for that. And join us in 2 weeks for what this channel actually does, discovering the secrets in old gaming magazines, and whether Rage Racer or Ray Tracer are two different games or just a sub-editor having a very bad day. In the meantime, enjoy your pile of new playables for history's greatest console. Bye now.